Day 9, our second last day of the challenge, and we start today with this position where it is white's turn to move. Use your calculation process and see if you can find a tactic here for white. Pause the video to think about it. Okay, so first of all we had to find the threats against us, and black is threatening to capture our bishop. That's definitely a threat we have to be aware of. And black is also threatening to add a lot more pressure onto our pinned knight with a move like queen to f6. So we have a lot of pressure on this pinned knight here, since if we move it we lose the queen. Okay, so with that in mind we can start identifying possible targets, and that knight must be a target. The bishop must also be a target because of the possible interaction between the queen and the bishop. The pawn on f7 must definitely be a target, and also the king, because black hasn't castled yet, and there are quite a few white pieces that can suddenly attack him. Okay, now if we capture the checks first of all, obviously sorry, this check doesn't make much sense because black is just going to block it with a pawn. This check is definitely worth investigating, because if black plays king takes bishop check, then we can play knight takes knight check, discovering an attack on the bishop, and after pawn takes knight, queen takes bishop, we've won a pawn in the process, and black can't castle anymore, so he will have a problem with his king safety in this game. But the problem is black doesn't actually have to capture the king here, he can capture the knight, and then we've lost a piece in the process, so that doesn't work so well. Okay, so next we look at captures, and at first this capture looks silly because we're dropping the queen, but there's actually a very interesting point behind this capture, and that is that after bishop takes f7 check, king to e7, knight to d5 is checkmate. Now this is a very neat checkmate. If you find the puzzle a little hard, it is quite a hard one to find on your own. I must say the reason why I included it here is this is a common theme that sometimes happen in this opening, and it's good if you can be aware of the idea behind it. If you can just look at it again. So in this position, white makes this move, knight takes e5, which is actually a trick. He's tricking black into thinking that he didn't see the pin, but instead he's got this nice checkmate. After bishop takes, king here, knight to e5 is checkmate. Alright, so let's go on to our next example. And here it is, the second exercise of our calculation exercises. It's black to move here. Use your calculation process and see if you can find a tactic here for black. Okay, so first of all, finding the threats. White has a threat here, and I'd say this is a pretty serious threat. You don't get them much more serious than checkmate. Okay, so we have to keep in mind that white is threatening checkmate against us. So whatever we do in this position has to be either a move that checks our opponent's king or a move that stops the checkmate. We don't have much choice. Okay, if we look at the targets in this position, well, this rook, as dangerous as he is, he's a target also because he's undefended. This bishop is a possible target. And this pawn is a possible target. And of course the white king is also a target. Under normal circumstances I would have said the queen is also a target. But since white is threatening checkmate, I don't see a way to exploit the queen at the moment. For example, even if we play pawn takes pawn and attacking the queen, we still fall to the checkmate. So whatever we do, we have to keep the checkmate in mind. And let's start calculating all the checks in this position. The only check is this move, which doesn't make any sense because we just seem to lose material. So next we have to start looking at the captures. And the only capture that makes sense in this position is this capture, because it's the only capture that stops the checkmate threat. And if we calculate a little deeper, then we see that after pawn takes rook, the D file becomes open, and we now have this very neat move, queen D8 check, which also attacks the rook, and we're going to win material in the process. It's quite an interesting tactic, and very often it's difficult to spot an attacking move where the piece actually goes backward. Like in this case, the queen goes backward, but it's an attacking move. And the only way that you're going to train your mind to see these kind of tactics is if you solve these tactics more often. Spend more time with training tactics. There will be tactics where the attacking move is actually a move that goes backward, and as your mind see more and more of those tactics, you will also be able to find them quicker in your own games. Okay, so let's go on to the last example, and let's make it a Visualize Level 2 one. Okay, so that means when I click the Start button, you will have to visualize 4 moves. If you are ready, let's go. Okay, so if you want to see those moves again, then you can rewind the video, or else visualize it in your mind and try to find a tactic in that position for white. You can pause the video to think about it. Okay, so if we look at the threats, black doesn't have any serious threats against us. Maybe the only threat that he has is threatening to damage our pawn structure by capturing our queen. Remember, the black queen is now over there and the white queen is over there. So if queen takes queen, pawn takes queen, then we damage our pawn structure. So that's the only real threat that black has in this position. Right, so we go on to the next step and we identify all the targets. The black queen must be a target, definitely, because of the tension between the two queens. Also the rook must be a target, and for sure the king must be a target. And if you know this pattern, this motive, then you'll also see this trick that we call a ladder trick. We play the rook to the back rank saying check, and if black captures our rook, then the black queen becomes undefended. It's called a ladder trick because it's like pulling the ladder out from underneath someone. So by playing the rook to e8 check, you remove the support of the black queen and the queen falls. Okay, so this is how the solution move looks. Rook to e8 check. If rook takes rook, then queen takes queen, wins the queen. Of course, if the rook checks us at the back rank, we've got this escape hole over here. Just one other thing, if we play check and the king moves out of check, then we simply capture the rook and win a rook in the process in any case. Okay, so that was the last tactics exercise for today, and we'll move on now to the evaluation exercises. I'll see you there.